Number 21. Number 20 on page 21. We've now moved into the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. Historians have never liked Ezra and Nehemiah because both those books suggest that when Cyrus destroyed Babylon, he then let the Israelites return back to Israel. And that's always been anathema. You do not destroy a people and then let them return to rebuild their cities and rebuild their armies and become a threat again. That doesn't make sense. It's illogical. And there's no precedence for this. And so historians have always suggested that the books of Ezra and Nehemiah are probably incorrect, not historical. Well, they may not like it. It may sound illogical, but they're going to have to argue with that artifact right there. That's called Cyrus Cylinder, a very famous cylinder written by Cyrus in cuneiform, where he says exactly that very thing. It's he that tells us. He's the one that lets the people return. He's the one that lets them rebuild their cities. He's the one that lets them build their armies, proving what a confident king he was, but also how far ahead of his time he was. And that's why it's one of the most famous cylinders in the world today. The Iranians want it back. The British stole it, brought it here, and they did give it back for the last year and a half. It's been in Iran. But thankfully, the Iranians gave it back again because it does belong to the British Museum. Now, what about Esther, Queen Esther? Many people have doubted whether she ever existed.
Yeah.
Did she have a husband named Xerxes? Is he historical? Let's look over here. That artifact number 1 right up there, which is on page 21. The left artifact, that is a tablet written by Xerxes. His name is on it, proving that he was the king at the right time as the book of Esther. What's more, his burials have been found in the caves that you see pictured there on that tablet, proving that not only he existed, but his son Artaxerxes. In fact, now, they have now come across the dinnerware from the palace of Artaxerxes, who could be the son of Esther. We don't know, because Xerxes would have had many wives. But certainly, it's in the same palace where Esther lived. She could have eaten off these very plates. No one doubts anymore whether or not Esther could be historical. Certainly her husband is, and her son is. So, therefore, it stands to reason that we can trust the book of Esther as well. Now, we're going to stop here, but let's go and see what the historians say. Let's turn to page 22, and let's just review what the historians are telling us concerning the Bible. Let's look at the top of page 22 and read what G.E. Wright states. He says, "We shall probably never prove that Abram really existed, but what we can prove is that his life and times, as reflected in the stories about him, fit perfectly within the early second millennium, but imperfectly within any later period." What is he saying? If you look at the story of Abraham, you will see there are very specific customs, very specific things he did that could only fit in 1900 BC. Why? Because of the Mari tablets, because of the Nuzi tablets, which show us in exactly parallel the same customs that we see in the Genesis account about him. And could not have happened even at the time of Moses. These customs no longer were in existence, showing that how accurate the Bible is. Sir Frederick Kenyon mentions, "The evidence of archaeology has been to reestablish the authority of the Old Testament, and likewise to augment its value by rendering it more intelligible through a fuller knowledge of its background and setting." Again, showing that we're just finding out more and more. The more we scratch, the more we find. You know the rest. William F. Albright, a renowned archaeologist, says the excessive skepticism shown towards the Bible by important historical schools of the 18th and 19th centuries, certain phases which still appear periodically, has been progressively discredited. Discovery after discovery has established the accuracy of innumerable details and has brought increased recognition to the value of the Bible as a source of history. And that's true. Much of these discoveries just corroborate what we've already known. They're just catching up with us. Come on home. Miller Burroughs of Yale states, "On the whole, the archaeological work has unquestionably strengthened confidence in the reliability of the scriptural record." Joseph Freed, another archaeologist, confirms that while thumbing through the book of Genesis, he mentally noted that each of the 50 chapters are either illuminated or confirmed by some archaeological discovery, and that this would be true for most of the remaining chapters of the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament. That's exciting. That's exciting. If someone can find that much corroboration from the first 50 chapters. But take a look and see what Nelson Gluck says. And this is my favorite quote. A Jewish Reformed scholar and archaeologist probably gives us the greatest support from the Bible when he states, and I quote, "To date, no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a single properly understood biblical statement." Ooh, I love that. That bears repeating. To date, no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a single properly understood biblical statement. Isn't that great? We don't have to apologize. And that's why it's so good that we have these artifacts here, that we can look at them. And listen, it's free. You don't have to pay a thing. But just sit back and know that the more they discover, the more they scratch, the more they find. The more they find, the more we shine. The more we shine, the more they whine. Oh, how sublime. Love it. That's the end of this, the tour for today. We're going to go downstairs, take the stairs. We're going to go out here into the big open area. That's where the toilets are. There are places where you can get some drink. We'll take about 15 minutes. Does that sound good? 15 minutes. Then we'll congregate and we'll head up, going to the back of the museum to go back up to the British Library. There we're going to look at the manuscripts and unpack the New Testament. A whole new set of challenges, completely different questions than are asked of the Old Testament. Okay? So let's follow me this way and we'll show you where we're going to go.